Blimey. The studio's shaking. Maybe that was a bit too much bass. Today I'm going to show you how to build up a melodic line during a performance and how you can make it more rhythmically interesting as time goes on. This building up of melodic lines was inspired by this toot on Mastodon. I actually quite like Mastodon for the reason that you can toot all day. I spent a lot of my youth tooting, and it strikes me as funny that now I've turned into a middle-aged fart, I'm tooting all over again. Anyway, it reminded me of something I've been experimenting with on the MC-101. Although the suggestion here is to build up the melody by playing the first few notes and then letting the length of the melody play out in silence, and then adding another couple of notes and allowing the length of the melody to play, and then gradually building it up until the melody is complete, I had something else in mind. The MC-101 already has a feature built in for looping sections of a pattern. So if you press Shift and Sequence, you can select an end step, and if you press Shift again and select a step, then you can have a start step. And while this is really useful and interesting for building up complex melodies and patterns, there was something else I was aiming at, something that I had been missing from the tracks and the model samples. I love using probability on the melodic elements that I have in the tracks and the samples. So on the tracks, for example, in bass lines, I often use the probability feature there to set different chances of notes playing to give the impression of a bass player that's dropping a note in here and there, or maybe missing one out to emphasize something, and it just gives a bit more of a natural, interesting feel to bass lines. And on the samples, I do something similar to this idea of building up a melody gradually. Because you can change the probability factor on the fly, you can start with a very low probability, so just a few notes of the melody trickle in. And then as you turn up the probability factor, you get more and more notes until you reach 100% and the melody is laid clear before all. So, I was a bit disappointed when on the MC-101 I discovered that the melody lines don't have probability on them. That was until I remembered that the drum tracks do. And what's more, all of the drums are pitchable, and each pad can be pitched relative to the original sample that you started with. With a bit of work, I could get some interesting bass lines and melodies again. The first job was to find a nice bass sound. I've got some samples that I've been collecting of the crave and the wasp and me making funny noises through the E4. And I selected one of those. Once I had a sample assigned to a pad, the next step is to put that pad in a group. So you press Shift and the pad which you want to assign to the group, in this case the one with the bass sample on. Then you turn the dial up until you get to the Edit Pad settings and press the dial in to click Enter. Once there, you have another menu that you have to scroll through until you get to Assign Group, and then you press Enter to get to assign the group and select the group. Now I'm going to copy this pad to all of the other pads. So to do this, you press Shift and the button underneath dial C4. Once you've done that, you have now put that pad on your clipboard, select a new pad, press shift and that copy button again under C4, and that pastes the pad in place. Now what I tend to do then is just press the pad I've just pasted to check that the copy has gone all right, and then press shift and copy again, select a new pad, shift and paste, and carry on until I've got all of the pads that I need assigned with that sample. So now we have a keyboard laid out, but all of the pitches are exactly the same. So the next job is to change those pitches, and we have to do some more menu diving. So press shift, select a pad, and then select pad edit mode. Once you're in pad edit mode, you then scroll up to key offset. Now the way that the key offset works is each number is a semitone. So if you're in G and you want to fill in the F sharp key, you will drop by one semitone. And if you're in G and you want G sharp, then you will increase it by one semitone. In this way, we can go F sharp -1, F -2, E -3, all the way down until we reach the bottom of the keyboard at C, or all the way up until we get to the C at the other end. Now we've got a keyboard laid out, we can get to the interesting thing of actually writing a melody. And we want to write the whole melody, so we can do this in two ways. Either you can just jam along to a track and play something out and record that. Or you can program it in using step time. But remember, if we're doing it in step time, you're programming note by note. Each drum pad has a different pitch on it. And that is where it gets interesting. Once you've got the complete melody, you can then start to think about how you're going to build it up. So maybe you will drop out all of the pads until you just have one note sounding in a rhythm. And then, as things progress, you can unmute other pads and gradually introduce more pitches until you have more pitches revealed and a more complex melody and a more complex rhythm. Of course, the other thing about this method, and what made me start playing with this route in the first place, is because now you have a melody on drum tracks, you can now introduce some probability to your melodies, and that adds a whole new layer of interest. Once you're in sequence mode, you press shift and the step you wish to edit, and then play with the probability dial until you've set it to something which sounds reasonable. Remember, this works the opposite way to the samples and the tracks, in that the higher the probability number, the more chance you have that something is going to mute and drop out, whereas the lower the number, the more often it will play. Hope you enjoyed this and got something useful out of it. Sorry that things aren't quite as regular as they have been of late, but bear with me. I will do videos when I get the chance. That's life. things happen. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe and like and all of that kind of jazz, especially now I'm a little bit more irregular, so you don't miss another one of these sporadic little half-arsed tutorials. And in the words of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation, share and enjoy. Bye kids!